Hello, thanks for watching this video. It's a webinar that we created in August 2020 about 3 keys to creating wow photographs. We'll start off with a story about a photographer who went to a dinner party. So sit back and enjoy. This famous photographer was invited to a dinner party at a very prestigious dinner. A friend, family friend. And she was a renowned cook. So he went along and he offered to take some photographs. So he took some photographs of the food and the layout of the table. And the lady was very, very impressed with the photographs, because he showed them the photographs afterwards and some of his own photographs, and she was very impressed. And she said to him, "You must have a very expensive camera." Now, he didn't say a word. He was shocked, actually, but he didn't say a word. He kept silent, and they had the dinner, enjoyed it. It was very, very good, delicious, in fact. And at the end of the dinner, he went to the host and he said to her, "Listen, that was delicious. I have never tasted food like that. You made a really nice meal. You know what?" He said, "I think you must have some very expensive pans." Which just goes to show, really, that it's not down to the very expensive pans or very expensive camera. It's down to just a few skills that you need to take a good photograph. And that's what we're going to look at tonight. So whether you've got the latest DSLR, or you've got your good old smartphone, or you've got an old-fashioned camera with a film in it, or the old-fashioned Polaroid. I like that picture. Here are the 3 keys to an amazing photograph. Okay, so here we go. Tip number 1. Ding ding. Could do with the top of the Pops music to this, couldn't we? Anyway, counting up from number 1. Tip number 1 is look into the frame. What do you mean by that, David? What I mean is you look into the frame as though you're looking into space. So you've got space in front of you, and you look into it. So you're looking sideways on, and can you see he's actually looking into the space in front of him? So that's what I mean by looking into the frame. So let me introduce you my lovely wife, Christine. Here she is posing for me. And she decided that she would turn to the side. So I could either take a photograph of her like that, and I'm thinking, where is she looking? No idea. Or I could take a photograph like that, and now I know that she's looking into that space ahead of her. She's looking into the frame. So let me show you a few photographs of a few models. It's a professional photograph that I've got. Incidentally, don't worry, I've not got any of these photographs off Google. I do have a license for stock images, professional stock images, so that I've bought all of these. So don't worry, I haven't stolen them off the internet. So she's looking, staring into space, and you're thinking, what is she looking at? What is she thinking about? In fact, she's staring into space. She's looking into the space in front of her. Notice how she's positioned just over to the side, looking into space. Here's another one. Here's a man looking into space. He's looking ahead of him, but notice the space in front of him. So he's over to the left and he's looking into space in front of him. And you think, what is he thinking about? Here's another one. What's she thinking about? Where's she looking? She's not in the center of the picture. She's over to the left, looking into the picture in front of her. And here's another one. He's looking down into the picture, but He's still positioned over to the right, looking into the frame. That's what I mean by looking into the frame. Here's another girl. What's she doing? Is she going on a long journey? Is she waiting for someone? Who's she looking at? What's she looking at? But she's looking again into the frame. So that's a key thing. If you've got someone looking sideways, make sure they're not in the center, they're looking into the frame. Here's a photographer that I suspect is taking a picture of himself. He's facing the camera, but if you notice, he's turned his face to look over towards the right, and he's looking into the frame. So there you go. And there's a bird looking into the frame, posing beautifully for the photographer. So there you go, looking into the frame. Here's the next one. Oh, before we do that, there is our hare. So if you're taking a picture of a hare on a skateboard, always remember to have that hare looking into the frame, or even sitting on the frame, but still looking ahead, space in front of it, looking into the frame. So number 2, counting up to number 2. Who's at number 2 this week? It is the rule of thirds. What is the rule of thirds, David? I hear you ask. Imagine dividing your screen with 2 vertical lines. So you're dividing it into thirds. So 2 vertical lines and then 2 horizontal lines. So there you go, dividing into thirds going down and dividing it into thirds going across. Now, where those intersecting points are the points of interest. That is where people will look on your picture. That's where you need to put your points of interest. So that's where people will look at. So let's look at a few examples and you'll see what I mean. Okay, so where did you immediately go to? Where were your eyes drawn to when you saw that picture? I bet it was the lady's eyes, her sunglasses. You went straight to her eyes. And the reason for that is if you imagine those vertical lines and the horizontal lines, so the vertical lines here and the horizontal line across, just here is one of those intersecting points. So that's why you immediately saw the lady's eyes. Here's another one. There's the bike at the intersecting point, and there's the bench at the intersecting point. Pineapple. So did you see the pineapple first or the leaves? Well, either way, intersecting point here, intersecting point here. So again with the flower. Now, it doesn't have to be exactly at the intersecting point, because the intersecting point is probably about here. But you can see the principle. If it's round about that area, that's where the eye is drawn to. And they are the points of interest. And that's what makes a really good picture. Now, did you notice the landscape or did you notice the car? You see, your eye's probably drawn to the car, isn't it? Your eye's drawn to the car and then to the landscape afterwards, and maybe the clouds, because the car is at that point of interest, at the intersecting point, the rule of thirds. Of course, there's the dandelion, composed just perfectly with the dandelion at that intersecting point. And I've got to put a picture of Christine in, haven't I? There she is. Now, her eyes just below the intersecting point, but that's probably where your eye was drawn to. Here's number 3. Create depth. Depth? What do you mean by that, David? I'm glad you asked. What I mean by that is this. That depth. And I can hear what you're saying. You're saying, well, I'm not going to take a picture like that because I might drop my camera and I might fall over the edge. Well, that's true. But that's just to illustrate the fact that there's depth there. Because if you look, the only thing that's in focus here is the guy's shoe. Rod has joined us. Hi, Rod. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us all the way from Austria. Brilliant. Thanks for joining us, Rod. So there you go. That could be in Austria, that picture. It's just the sort of thing, lots of mountains. So as you can see, the guy's shoe is in focus, but the background is out of focus. And the foreground, his trousers, are also out of focus. So that creates a sense of depth. So if you can create something like that, it gives it a really good look of depth. Here it is simplified. You've got the foreground, you know, with the main person in, whether that's you or somebody. And then you've got your background. In this case, it's the sky. Bit boring, but you get the concept. So here's one with just a foreground and a background. The foreground is in focus and the background is out of focus. So your eyes are drawn obviously to the foreground. Now you can do that sort of effect where, you know, if you've got a really nice expensive camera, a DSLR, you can do that with that. If you've got a nice long telephoto lens, then with the telephoto lens you can do what we call a narrow depth of field, which means that whatever you focus on is in focus and you can make everything else out of focus. So it narrows the depth of field. The other way you can do it is having a wide aperture in your lens. But you need an expensive camera to do that. If you've just got a smartphone, you can still do it with your smartphone. How? Well, with what they call the bokeh effect. Bokeh effect? No, nothing to do with a bunch of flowers. It's spelled B-O-K-E-H. Bokeh effect. And as you can see from this picture, the background is blurred. And the foreground, the subject, is in focus. And that's what they call the bokeh effect. Now notice something else here. Remember we were saying about the rule of thirds? If you notice, the intersecting point is on this guy's face. So you're immediately drawn to his face because he's at the intersecting point. So the bokeh effect, there you go. And you can do that with an ordinary camera. Here's my smartphone. I can take an ordinary picture, I can take video, or I can go into portrait mode and I can do that. Here's my lovely model, my wife Christine, posing again. And that's with my just ordinary smartphone, taking a picture of her with the bokeh effect. I've just gone into portrait mode and the camera has done it for me. Background is out of focus. So nice and easy, and it creates the depth. A few professional photographs just quickly. Here we go. She's looking into the frame, of course. The foreground is blurred. We've got a leaf in front and we've got the background slightly out of focus and the sun shining through. So we've got 3 layers there, nice sense of depth. Someone here is focused on a point on the sand, made the foreground out of focus and the background. And I've got a message from Peter. Very professional, great. Absolutely novice regarding photography. Well, great. Hope you can pick up some really good tips with this, Pete. Thanks for joining us. So there's another one. Now here's one that nothing is out of focus, but it still creates depth. And all the photography did is stand by a window with some rain on it. So he's got the rain in focus, and behind it he's got the shops and the people with umbrellas up, creating a nice sense of depth. So you've got the window in front of you with the rain and the shops and the people behind. And of course you can just stick your hand out in front of you. So you've got right from the lens, right out to his fingers and beyond. So your eyes are drawn to the hills. Your eyes follow his arms, don't they, to the fingers and then to the hills. That could almost be like Austria, that, couldn't it, Rod? And in fact, Rod's it's the only bokeh Christine will get. Oh, you know me so well, Rod. Hey, it's her birthday tomorrow, actually, so I better buy her a bouquet, hadn't I? That's a good reminder, thank you. I'll nip out to the petrol station later on. Anyway, here's a photograph I took in Madeira, actually. If you came to the webinar we did about framing, then you'll recognize this picture. It's one of my favorites because I saw this picture and there's all these plants on the floor and the trees lining the side, and in the foreground is the bucket, the bouquet, the bucket, and just at the back is the horizon. There's a little gate there, but your eye is taken by the path to the background. And that's why I like it. So simple shots, when you're just walking along, you'll see something like this with a background and a nice foreground and a subject in the middle. So just everyday life, and you can see what's going on. That window in the rain shot, yeah, it's very clever. I like that shot. I'd like to say I took it myself, but I didn't. But yeah, it's very clever. It's very good. I like those sort of shots. So there you go. There's your three tips. But I think we've got time for a bonus tip, don't you think? It's almost like a plan, this, isn't it? So bonus tip number 4, counting up. What's at number 4 this week, you ask? Well, it's play with Lego. No, it isn't actually. It's framing. Framing, as in June. Framing June. Oh, no, that's not framing, is it? Anyway, framing. So, of course, here comes back my lovely wife, Christine, and she's posing there for me. Now, she posed there like that, and have you noticed something? There's a little more space above her head than beneath her feet. And I did that on purpose because it's nicer with just a little bit more space above than below. Ideally, 1 unit below, whether that's a centimetre or an inch or whatever, to 2 units above. So there you go, 1 unit and 2 units. So if it's 5 centimetres down at the bottom, it's 10 centimetres at the top. Now, I'm not going to tell you exactly what these dimensions are, because if you're watching this on a small smartphone, then it's going to be completely different from how I see it. And similarly, if you're watching it on a 60-inch TV, it's going to be very, very different. So basically, whatever you have beneath the feet, double that at the head. It's only approximate, though. Don't take it as gospel. If it's something like that, it'll look good. So let's have a look at a few professional photographs. Here's a model. You notice there's that distance at the bottom under that, and double the distance at the top. Here's another model, and it's the same again. Now, a little bit more of a distance, more distance beneath, and double that distance at the top. And again, another one. And now that's cropped a little bit finer there, only a tiny little bit at the bottom. And yeah, about double at the top. What are you saying? Now, you might think, well, I don't want to just have, a full body shot all the time. I want to be able to get closer in. Well, that's fine. Now, the mistake some people make is they put the face right in the center of the screen. It's better to put the face at the top of the screen. Just leave a little gap at the top like that. So it makes it look better. Here's another picture, the other end of the age spectrum. Now, I'm going to ask, where were your eyes drawn to? And I'm going to guess your eyes were drawn to this lady's eye. And I think the reason is not because, I don't know if it's cataracts or what she's got, but if you remember, we were talking about the rule of thirds. This is the intersecting point of those two lines, the vertical and the horizontal line, just here. So the photographer has done that very cleverly. So that's where your eyes are drawn to. But notice here, that's what we're going to talk about. The slight gap just at the top. The face isn't in the middle of the picture. It's off to one side and there's a slight gap at the top. Here's another one. We don't know where the top of her head is because it fades into the darkness. I would suspect it's round about here. But a little bit of mystique there. Now, you might decide to go in a little bit further. And don't be afraid of cropping your picture. So, you know, the photographer has cropped just the top of this lady's bob cap there. And a little bit of mystery there. What's she thinking? You know, your eyes are drawn to her eyes. And then, again, you can get closer still. Crop even a little bit of the top of the boy's head. And even closer, you can't even see his eyes. You've got his head and the hat is cropped. And I really like this one because you could have the whole of her head in the frame, head and shoulders, but the photographer has cropped right off the top of her head. And you think, well, that's a shame because she's got really nice hair. But he's focused on a face. And he's cropped, or she has cropped the top of her head, and you can just see just below her chin. So got right in focus on her. The background is out of focus, so it's creating depth. And also notice that she's looking into the frame. So there's all this frame, this space in front of her. So she's been looking into the frame, then she's just turned slightly off towards the camera, but she's still looking down. It's a really nice pose. Now, again, we've zoomed right in, cropped the top of his head, just under his chin. And here again, crop the top of this man's head. There's no space to the sides. Even his ears aren't visible in full. But you can see every detail, can't you? All the little wrinkles. It's just a lovely picture. So let's do a recap. Oh, I am sorry. I'm sorry. I had to do that. This is a recap. Anyway, we'll move quickly on from that one before I get the complaints coming in. So look into the frame. Remember, look into the frame like the hare does. He's looking into the frame. Then, of course, there's the points of intersection with a rule of thirds. So imagine two vertical lines and two horizontal lines, and where they cross are where the points of interest are. So place your points of interest in your photograph in those places. Now, if you're interested in knees, the hare's knees, of course, are a point of interest. So, you know, that's another one. So we've got 4 points of interest in that picture. And of course, remember to frame it just right. Whether you've got a full body shot, like with the hare, or you're zooming in and you need to crop it, however you do it. A good frame is good. Remember to create depth. Create some depth to your picture. But don't do like he's done and stand on the railway line to do it. I don't recommend that at all. So there you go. Half an hour like I promised. That's it. So if you've not liked the Facebook page, take it easy. Please do like it because Facebook will tell you next time we have a webinar. Hopefully, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But also I share lots of other useful tech made simple stuff on the Take It Easy page. And remember the website, of course, takeiteasyworkshop.co.uk, where all the techie stuff is made easy. So they are the adverts out of the way. And I'd just like to say thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed doing it. It was a lot of fun. And I enjoyed preparing it and presenting it tonight. So I really hope you enjoyed it. So last thing, I shall just go through them once more because I've made these little banners just to illustrate. So look into the frame, the rule of thirds, create depth, and frame it well and crop if necessary. So thanks again for joining us. Like I say, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll hopefully do another one, similar one like this in a month's time. Remember to join us. If you've got any ideas, thoughts about what you'd like us to do a workshop on, then pop it in the comments or give me a shout and we'll get on with that. But in the meantime, thanks again and have a great evening.